Project 5 is on correlation and regression, and there's 3 parts to it. In part 1, you're answering some questions about correlation. You're given the correlations here, so these numbers here for the variables that are shown is what they refer to as a correlation matrix. And you're just going to look at these numbers and answer these questions. So, the pictures underneath the numbers here, they're scatter plots that relate to these numbers, but you don't really have to use these. They just kind of verify this. So focus on the numbers here. For example, how many different correlations are there shown here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then which is the strongest correlation? Remember, correlations run between -1 and 1. So you would look for the one furthest from 0, and that would be this one right here, and so on. So you'll answer these first 7 questions looking at these correlations here. Now, how you read this is it's a intersection of the row and columns. So horsepower, for example, and miles per gallon highway. Correlation is a relationship between 2 variables, so you have to have 2 variables for each one of these numbers. So horsepower and miles per gallon highway would be -0.168. The correlation between turning diameter and price, this row and this column here, would be 0.367, and so on. Now for part 2, you're looking at regression. The questions again are just specific about that relationship between horsepower and price, and that's it. So you have one correlation that you're looking at more in depth. So here's the questions. Describe the relationship between price and horsepower. And so you would look at the scatter plot shown, and we would say that's positive because they're going up, and it's fairly strong, and that's about all you have to say there. And then you go to the next question. What's the slope? And now all of the answers to those questions are given here, right here in this area. You'll see this is the regression equation. Here's my y-intercept, and here's my slope. And here's my r-squared, or the coefficient of determination, my efficiency of the regression. Here's my t-value for the t-test that was run on a constant, and there's a t-test was run on the slope. Now here's your p-values, okay, that tells you whether to accept or reject those values. So again, you're going to use these numbers here, the part 2 output for these part 2 questions. And for example, let's look at one more. Can the price be accurately predicted over the full range? Now we'll go down here and look at the picture, and I can see that the points are very tight to the line right here. So that would be a good predictor. They're kind of scattered more here, so in this range of horsepower they're not quite so good, but this part back here, you'll see the points aren't very close to the line at all, so that's not a very good. So we want to create some ranges here under horsepower of where it's close, fairly close, or maybe not so close. And then let's look at part 3. Again, part 3 questions. You're going to look at the part 3 output, and all the answers are right here. You don't have to really look or compute anything. It says list the type of regression. So we got a little bit of a different model, which is listed right here, and it tells you what model. It's a cubic model, and so on. And that's the actual equation, regression equation. And we want to know if it's better or worse than the other one. Well, there's your r-squared value, so we compare the r-squared values. What type of statistical test was used? You'll see here was given this was an f-test. And then we got our p-value given, and it tells us that this is 0.016. This -2 means move the decimal point over 2 places to the left. And then we want to summarize those results. You're going to, in kind of words, explain the answers to those questions, mostly focusing on part 2 and a little on part 3.